between all of us Jeets, I will happily take Mark Zuckerberg's money and share the gospel of GTT on Facebook if that makes them happy. So what's really interesting, though, about Facebook is we're starting to blow up on Facebook, guys. I mean, I think as you know, I don't really care that much about numbers of things, but I really care about quality more than quantity. But the way that I look at these numbers, and I strongly encourage you to do the same when you're thinking about growth, is try not to get confused about the raw numbers of things, because it can be very debilitating if you're thinking like, oh, I want to be really good at something, and you compare yourself to like where somebody huge is, and then the massive distance between you and them. It can feel oftentimes sort of overwhelming. Like you'll never catch them. So don't do that. That's my strong recommendation. Instead, the way to do this is focus on for things like this, it's really the percentage growth that is the thing to pay attention to, not the raw numbers. Ignore the raw numbers. They're meaningless. Especially if you're just starting at something, it's mostly just going to work against you and make you feel like you suck. But you don't suck. You're awesome, right? And so it doesn't matter if you have millions, right? And I think this is where a lot of people get hung up, is like, especially when starting social, is they look at something like, oh man, I only have 80 followers on Threads. I'm a nobody. People will never pay attention to what I'm doing. But they ignore things like the fact that you had a 35% growth on that social media over the last month. That's huge. And a way to quickly invert it is look at those big time people and ask, did they have 35% growth this month? I can pretty much guarantee you they didn't. And so going back to Facebook, the thing to pay attention to is keep in mind, we don't run ads. I mean, unless it's a sponsored video, so we don't really promote anything. And part of that is it just messes with the algorithm. Like if I really, really get excited about a particular topic, I may promote it. Or if I feel like I'm talking about something that's somewhat contrarian to big tech, and big tech is going out of their way to try to shut it down, then I'll promote it even more. Like what we're seeing with the Anthropic games that they're playing, right? But generally speaking, I don't promote the stuff. I want it to happen organically because that's really the way to do this in a meaningful way. Because word of mouth and organic traction it creates staying power. It's not pretend. So this growth is madness, right? Something happened this week. I think there was some post I made. I was talking about AI research moving away from being science to pseudoscience. And for some reason, that post on Facebook took off. I mean, took off for GTT being non-existent on Facebook. But check this out. So prior to that post, we had, and also like the backstory here is when Facebook asked us to go to Facebook, it's a big zero. This was like 2 months ago. It's a big zero. Like all of these were zeros. Instagram was all zero just at the beginning of the year. TikTok was all zero, right? YouTube was all zero a year ago. A little over a year ago. See, these were all zeros except maybe LinkedIn. Because I'm new to this whole social media thing. I don't have any idea what I'm doing. So we were just doing the organic thing, and I never know how this is going to go. And truthfully, I kind of thought that people on Facebook would not care about GTT. Truthfully, I thought the same thing about Insta and TikTok. I literally, the reason why it took so long for me to bring GTT to instant TikTok is I thought, incorrectly so, right? Really good example of me making a huge mistake by thinking I know something that I don't. I preemptively had decided I knew the answer and I didn't know the answer, right? I was of the mindset that, oh, yeah, Instagram people aren't going to care about GTT, so I'll just stick to YouTube. I was wrong. I mean, guys, we get more interaction and visibility on Instagram now than all the other social media combined. Like, we get more views, we get more comments, we get more, like, for the live stream stuff, we get more on YouTube. And obviously, long form stuff kind of has to go in a place where you can have long form content. But IG is basically the biggest magnet for growing GTT over any of these. So Goju, 100% wrong. And I even talk about this. I have a video that's about don't know the things you don't know. I did this right here. I knew the answer and I was totally wrong. Anyway, so I thought a similar thing for Facebook, but this time, I've done this enough times where I'm like, well, I don't think this is going to go anywhere, but what the hell, guys? Let's do it. It's just one more click and I don't care. Like, I'm unembarrassable. I don't get embarrassed about things. Like, if it sits at 0 and I post 200 things and nobody watches, I don't care. It has no effect on my self-esteem. That's not what makes me do the things that I do. It's largely inspired by my own internal engine, right? This is another thing too that I really think holds a lot of people back is I think a lot of people truthfully are just very afraid. And a lot of people, I think, they're not comfortable hearing that, thinking about that. But I see a lot of people not achieve their dreams because they're too afraid to try, because they're worried about what other people might think when they try something and they fail. And you don't do that. Like, who cares what those people think, right? The people that matter, like the people that are actually the badasses in the world, I'm telling you, they effing love it when they see people try things and fail, because they see what the rest of the world doesn't see, is they see someone that is not afraid. They see someone that is willing to try something and make a fool out of themselves and have no regard to what anybody else thinks. And that, my friends, is somebody worth paying attention to. If you have that quality and I come across you, I'm immediately drawn to you, because you're somebody that I know I can probably work with and go against the tide, the grain, the big tech, the whatever, and you're not going to be terrified because 8 billion people are telling you that you're wrong. Because 8 billion people are drinking the Kool-Aid right now and they're living in a flat earther world because they're being misguided by the propaganda machine that is AI hype, right? This is literally where I was 4 years ago when I was trying to tell people that this whole language model thing was not going to work out. Everybody told me I was in outer space. Nobody, okay, some people would listen, but the majority of people basically, I literally told this to my Stanford class that in 2023, that I wasn't going to teach language models. I had an enrollment, check this out, this is a true story. I had an enrollment of 80 students. And in the first lecture, I made it very clear that I was not going to teach language models in CS 329. 70 of those students dropped the course after I said that. 70. Their loss. the 10 that did stick around, those dudes leveled up. Dude and dudettes, those people leveled up in a major way. And many of them told me one of the best decisions they made is to not listen to their friends and drop the course, because this is back in the time where LLMs were all the rage and people just couldn't get enough of it, but they couldn't see past their own blindness, right? They couldn't understand that this was all hype and this was not going to go the way that it was being presented, but they were too young. They were too unwise to be able to think through these things. And they were so certain they knew. They were so certain they knew the answer that they dropped my course. That's their loss, right? By the way, this year I actually am going to teach language models, because it's been the pendulum has swung so far the other direction. I need to now remind people of the value of language models, because people are so anti-AI now that I need to try to get them back on track, right? This is like this polarizing behavior that people take is just, it's not very good. It's just like working in a space of nuance and understanding that extreme behavior on either ends is usually not the answer, is something that can level you up significantly. That there is a whole world of opportunity that sits in the gray. And I understand it is easier for our minds if we just black and white this shit. But that's not really helpful. Not if it's something that you deeply care about. Because this black and white mentality is not going to get you deep down any rabbit holes. It's going to limit you to basically just superficial knowledge. And you're not going to really understand things deeply if you're just like, I'm 100% for this, I'm 100% against this. It's like, don't be like that. Be very excited about this, but be open to the fact that it has problems. Or be very against this thing, but understand that it could actually have some benefits. This uncompromising world that we live in, where we take these strong positions, is, I think, it works against us oftentimes significantly more than it works for us. And minimally, at least in the circles that I run and the students that I teach and the things that I do, this is something I really try to get them to understand, because it's something that, if I'll be honest, for like the first 35 years of my life, I didn't understand this, and I made some egregious mistakes. I mean, the volumetric amount of stupidity and error in judgment that I made in the first 35 years of my life because I subscribed to this sort of broken philosophy, man, it just slowed me down significantly. So don't do that, right? Work in the gray. Anyway, so what I'm starting to see with Facebook, I want to be honest with you guys, and this is something I absolutely did not expect, but this is what I mean about being open to things. If Facebook continues on the growth rate that it's at right now, based on whatever wackiness is going on, Facebook will eclipse everything with the exception of YouTube. We will have more people paying attention to GDT on Facebook than we do on IG. I mean, in the entire time that I've been on IG, I've never had a week like that. Not once. Now, admittedly, I haven't been on IG that long, right? Maybe 6 months or so, like not even 6 months, 5 months. So that's not that many weeks, but ignore the numbers, right? So yeah, 430 followers in IG this week, only 116. Ignore that. What about the percentages? This is a 2% growth here. This is 154% growth. if that growth percentage persists, we're loving it. And the reason why I think many of us that deeply care about GTT should pay attention to this is Zuck is basically, he's being somewhat generous. uh, that's a really good way of putting it, I think, is Facebook is being wildly generous with us growing on Facebook. That's actually why I'm trying to stream here. And the way I see it is, one, I didn't know that people on Facebook would even care, truthfully. I never even thought it would happen. But the bigger thing is running GTT has overhead, right? Like, I want to be able to get Restream work on every platform, but it's $200 a month, right? I have to be fiscally responsible. So if Mark Zuckerberg wants to essentially cover our bill in massive ways and we blow up on Facebook, then we can start to do really incredible things. So this is worth paying attention to, at least for me. Anyway, okay, enough about that. Let's go back to where we were with our polling. We're running this poll. Okay, we have one vote, and I think that's Colin's vote. So for kicks and giggles, I'd love for anybody else that's paying attention right now to answer this poll through your chat. And the question is, how did you first hear about GTT? And here are your answers: YouTube, IG, TT, FB, or other. Yeah, I understand people absolutely have comfort in absolutes because it makes their life easier. They don't have to deeply reason about things. They can just put people in boxes or things in boxes, and then their life is better. Yeah, a lot of it, I think, is intellectual laziness. A lot of it, too, is I think people, it can sound a little bit more like exciting, I think, when people speak absolutely. But at least for me, it tends to do the opposite. I don't tend to think of people that speak absolutely about things as being champions of change or arbiters of truth or things like that. And I know some people do. I see it sort of the opposite. I see it as it's actually, in my mind, oftentimes more small-minded than enlightened. Now, just to be clear, that's not always the case. Because I live in the world of gray, and there are times, even in this case, where drawing a hard line on very specific things, like a very small number of things that deeply, deeply matter. Not like the type of soda you drink, right? Or the specific kind of socks that you wear, but stuff that like legit matters. That I think can be useful. I think that can be helpful. But it has to be something that like really matters. It's not just being an absolutist to be an absolutist. In fact, many of the scientist friends that I know, the ones that can work in the gray are often the ones that end up being far more successful scientists. And, you know, it kind of makes sense, is people will listen to them. Whereas one of my students who are former students who run Snorkel AI, Alex Ratner, brilliant guy. In Alex's words, it's a snooze fest. He'd call this, when people like this talk, it's a snooze fest because they're so black and white, they're not saying anything, because oftentimes the black and white stuff has already been said a million times. But the stuff that lives in the gray, where it's about 74.38% this way and the rest this way, or it's carved up in 4 different directions like this, that's a space that like could have a lot of deep exploration. Okay. Now, let's go back to the topics. And I want to get into some of this critical thinking stuff. Because I have a few examples. By the way, if you're on YouTube or Twitch or Kick, 2 of the examples for the critical thinking and deep reasoning are on either sides of my screen. This is on my screen for a reason. On the right side with Discord, I'm showing this on purpose because we're going to critically reason about this and see what we can learn about anti-gravity. This is Paco breaking down what he mined on Google's anti-gravity system, both the pros and the cons. And there's really interesting things that I was able to, I think, sniff out after I started reading this that I didn't know about until I looked at this list. But those things, I think, require degrees of separation to discover because they're not immediately obvious if you just read the pros and cons just for what they're presenting. You have to be able to do degrees of separation. You have to be able to do granular reasoning, zoom out, shift the camera, zoom in, and connect the dots. Otherwise, it's invisible. Or at least it was invisible to me on a peripheral pass, but then I saw it after I did that granular reasoning piece. Same thing over here on the left with this AGI to ASI. As I think many of you know, I live in the world of fostering goodwill. Like my default position is I'm going to believe people are intelligent, that they're good-natured, that they are not trying to do harm, and I want to like them until I start to build up evidence that tells me otherwise. So when I initially saw this paper, I was actually pretty excited because I really liked the title. I liked the idea of moving away from artificial general intelligence to superintelligence. I don't generally call it ASI because I think there's beauty in asymmetry, not symmetry. I think asymmetry is quite beautiful, actually. I don't know why we... I'm a strange guy. What can I tell you? Right? I like things to not be perfect because the real world is not perfect. It's chaotic. It's disordered. And I think that like, pick a Christopher Nolan movie, any one of them, and look for things that have the appearance of being symmetric but are not symmetric. And in my own meandering on this, you'll find a huge number of cases. Like, I'm of the mindset that highly cerebral individuals are wildly repelled by fake symmetry. They're much more drawn to things that are asymmetric in nature, especially things that have the appearance of being symmetric and are not symmetric. Like when you have something on your screen and it looks like these two things are divided evenly, but on closer inspection, it's actually that they're shifted slightly to the left. So it has this, right, this like discovery of characteristics in the nuance. Anyway, so I don't call it ASI, I just call it superintelligence. Anyway, in my first pass of this, I was trying to foster goodwill, and I did all that, and I thought this was potentially a step in the right direction. On closer inspection, I've completely changed my position. I want to talk about this, and I want to share with you that after I read the abstract, which I didn't read before, gotta be honest, I was just skimming. I was just skimming. And I don't know. The title looked like it was the right direction. I was like, sweet, these guys have figured it out. I actually read it today, and boy, oh boy, do I think they're confused. And I want to get into this. But before we get into that, what I really want us to do is I want us to do this critical thinking and deep reasoning so you can actually get an intuition about them being a little bit off the mark without ever reading a single word of this paper. It's basically just looking at the breadcrumbs. And from my perspective, yeah, absolutely. There's like, Tom, I think there's a ton of research that shows that people are far more attracted to people when they're asymmetric. And when they've done the cases where they've taken people's faces and they make them perfectly symmetric, they look super strange, right? Because it's just so artificial. It doesn't look right when things that are meant to be asymmetric or meant to be moving toward symmetry, but to never truly achieve symmetry. Once that's achieved, I think strange things happen. And I think the same thing happens in mathematics and in science. Yeah. Anyway. For this case, specifically with this paper, I want us to look at this and try to understand what are the characteristics that we might be able to look at just using critical thinking and granular reasoning that could give us an indication on the quality of the paper that we're going to read before we ever read a word of this paper. Because once we do this exercise, I think that there's a really important thing to observe that, at least for me, is something I think about quite a bit from my own personal introspection. And that is having concrete data that supports you as a person, of someone to listen to or support or champion, is something that I don't think we should be dismissive of. I think it's very easy to be dismissive of it and say, yeah, I don't have that fancy degree from those fancy schools, or yeah, I don't teach at some fancy school, but I'm still awesome. And I have no doubt that you are, right? Absolutely. But think about it from a more general perspective. Imagine that someone is trying to champion you for someone else, and there isn't an abundance of evidence to support you for that thing. How difficult is it for them to champion you, right? One of the things that I do is I'm constantly trying to help Jeets land jobs and move forward in their career. But if they don't have an enormous body of evidence in that domain or that career, even my positive recommendation, that alone, that might not be enough. But if you come to me and need help and you have a huge body of evidence that shows that you're highly capable for this thing, you've just made my life significantly easier. Because now all I need to do is just go into my network and bring your stuff to these people and say, look at them on paper. But on top of that, I personally vouch for this person. That is a slam dunk. Whereas if the stuff on paper, like the idea that motivated me, the way that it was explained, is build a body of evidence that is so large, it's irrefutable, that people can't take the position of ignoring you. It's impossible. Your work is so widely recognized and established that no one in their right mind can even make an argument that you don't know what you're talking about or you don't know what you're doing. But more importantly than that, this is the part that I think is the real introspective, the real introspective piece that I think is very hard for people to hear. It was very hard for me to hear. Is that body of evidence actually is far less about convincing them and far more about convincing you. It's about convincing ourselves that the way confidence works, at least real confidence, quiet confidence, at least from my perspective, is it's twofold. The first piece is having belief in yourself. You have to have that, right? Believe in yourself 100%. But unsubstantiated belief without evidence is just belief. So you have to couple that with data. You've got to put in the reps. You can't just say that you're going to be this amazing swimmer and then not spend all this time swimming and kicking ass and going into competitions and losing and then winning after you lose enough and you get better and better and better. You really have to couple these two things. And that evidence largely is there for you more than it is for them. And from someone that's done this myself, I got to tell you, it does change the way that you think about things because it's not fake anymore. It's, this whole fake it to make it. I despise this phrase, this term. I don't believe you should fake anything. I think you should have confidence in yourself and believe in yourself, but you should own and be intellectually honest about who you are at every step of the way so you understand your place in the world. I think that when people lose that, this is when they start to become really difficult to work with, or they become like just so disconnected in reality, and people are like repelled by that, right? Like, for example, where I teach, like, I'm lucky. I'm super lucky, guys. I don't show up at this university thinking that I'm the bomb. It's the opposite. I'm a guest. And I don't take that for granted for any period of time. Not for 1 second do I think that I'm like the cock of the walk. I am super lucky just to be allowed to go to that place and be permitted to teach there. This is a gift that I have been graced with, and I'll never get confused about the order of things. No matter how much I achieve, right? I'll never misunderstand the gifts that I've been given, and I will not take them for granted. And I think that this is where a lot of people go wrong, is they start to become really intellectually dishonest and think that they are above it all. You're not above it. When you become above it all, the only thing that you're above is your ability to actually have real impact, right? It's not helpful. Not if you want to do real things. Not if you want to like actually go and change the world. Not if you really want to teach at a place like this, right? Like, I have champions on the inside of Stanford, absolutely. But it doesn't matter how much they champion me. If there isn't a massive body of evidence to support me being like a badass, their supporting me means nothing. It means zero. You have to put in the reps. You have to do it. And so don't be above it, right? Humble yourself. Be honest with yourself. And there's beauty in that, right? Because then when you reach the point to where you do start to feel confident, it is true confidence. And true confidence is quiet. It's not loud. When you're truly confident, you don't need to brag. You don't need to flex because everybody already knows, right? Nothing needs to be said. And also, no one can get under your skin, right? You become unfazable. Like, do you really think that Michael Phelps cares if anybody says that he sucks at swimming? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that anyone could shake Michael Phelps or Tom Brady or Neil Armstrong or people that have like gone, Donald Knuth, Alan Turing, like, and that's, there is, I think, natural skill that plays into it, but all those people, at least the people that I know, it's through an enormous amount of hard work. There are no shortcuts. That's just something that people say. And that, like, there'll be shortcuts that get people temporarily ahead, but long term, all that stuff gets found out. And you don't want to be in that group. Like, trust me. Like, Sam Altman, there was a short period of time where Sam Altman, I think, thought that he was the king of the hill. Guys, that time has come and gone. And that'll never be recovered. Never. He's never going to get that back. Right? Because he's lost the trust of the public because he abused it. He took it for granted. He faked it. He's talking about shit that he doesn't have the slightest clue about. And for a while, people believed it just because it was this magical, phenomenal thing. But now, 4 years later, I mean, just read the tea leaves. There was a period of time where I was trying to tell people, I think Sam Altman is kind of just like not an honest guy. And I would get like voted out of those rooms. I don't get voted out of those rooms anymore. That's also the beauty, too, of saying the truth. Seriously, like, there's something that's also really beautiful about telling the truth is it ages like fine wine. Because if you really are telling the truth, your views may be unpopular now. But as time marches forward and people start to see what's really going on, the trust that will be accumulated from you sharing the hard truths that nobody else would share and not being a jerk about it, not like shoving. I mean, I think you guys know I don't ever really say, I told you so. Told you this wasn't going to work. Like, now I'm going to flex on you. No, that's not the point of this at all. The point is to actually get us on track as a society and as a species so we don't self-annihilate, right? Because there's moments in time, especially nowadays, where I feel like we're veering really close to self-annihilation. And it's not because of things that we need. It's greed. It pisses me off to no end. And for everybody in the world that's not in the United States, keep us in your your prayers and your thoughts. All right. So I've ranted and raved. So one more time about the polling. Polling stuff is active now. If you see the poll, anybody can answer at any time. You don't need this window to be active. Just remember the question and then remember what the answer is. I'll post these somewhere, and then all you need to do is just say the poll number and then the answer you pick. And you can change your answer 300 times. So if you pick the wrong answer, you can change it. It only will allow you to have one answer for any poll, but an unlimited number of changes. So please answer this question if you guys are active right now. How did you first hear about GTT? A1, YouTube, A2, Insta, A3, TikTok, A4, Facebook, A5, something else. Now that I've done my meandering for the last hour, we can actually get into some of the content. But before we do that, I need to have a quick bio break. I'm going to leave this on my screen so you guys can see it. And you can vote. Look at that. And Kat didn't even preface it with the P thing, but that's exactly the way it's supposed to work. For the most active, most recent poll, I picked both of those up. You Man, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is how to design software the right way. Just warms my heart. Yeah, I appreciate that, Tom. I really appreciate that. Like we're. How do I exit out of this thing? Some love there. And also, I'm going to give everybody that votes. By the way, you also get experience and stuff. You level up essentially every time you vote for this stuff. And those levels up, that leveling up, honestly, it's going to matter. Trust me, it's going to matter because there's going to be certain polls that I only allow people that are leveled up to answer, because when you're leveled up, what that tells me is that you're deeply committed to GTT. You've been around for a while, and so I should care, right? You're not somebody that's just shown up on a single stream, or you're not a short timer, or you're in for a week and you're flying in hot, and and then you're out. Oof, this is hilarious. I can't copy the text from AGI. Okay, from AGI to ASI. Yeah, let me see if I can get that for you, Tom. Okay. I think this is it. Oh no, this is not going to work. Give me 1 second. It's on the restream as well. Oh, you were on this one. Okay, guys, I'll be right back. And then we're going to get into the actual topics, which are right here. Excellent. Give me a second. Grab your caffeine and your popcorn and stuff. Yeah, I also want to talk about Meredith Whittaker. If you guys don't know who this lady is, boy, oh boy, is she somebody to pay attention to. Every time I hear her talk, I like her more. I think she's the co-founder and president of Signal, the messaging app. And I got to tell you, she is one of the most ethical and technologically sophisticated people I've listened to that is at the forefront of a company in the landscape of companies today. She's building essentially unwavering trust and belief from me. See if I can find this IG clip that I saw earlier tonight. But you should maybe, if you don't know who she is, feel free to look her up during this clip or this stream or after. But boy, oh boy, I get smarter every time I listen to her talk. Very, very intelligent woman. And more than just intelligent, she's hyper ethical. Like feel like she is. We need more Merediths in the world right now. I'll see if I can find this clip I watched earlier. Okay, so a little fun. There's this movie I happened upon today on Netflix, Per Aspera ad Strata. And I guess this translates to something like to the stars or through the stars with difficulty. Something like that. And it's is it a, hold on, let's, like, I'm not kind of wired the right way. And I know that I could take the easy path. Like, for example, like, let's just be real for a second. I think I have on the order of maybe 165, 170 issued patents. I can be a massive ideation machine if I want to be. Absolutely. And Intel wanted me to you know, that example, the reason why I have basically 170 or 200 issued patents or whatever that number is I was just playing the game. I was literally just playing the game. That I wanted to be able to run my own lab. I understand how the game works. And so, okay, you want to see what I can do? Here you go. I'll show you. And did I end up running my own lab? Yep, I did. Now, is that my finest, best work? No, absolutely not. I mean, some of them are cool, but those patents, many of them, it's like I figure that shit out on a walk with the dog, right? And to be fair, like that's after me working in the field for decades. So the things that I can figure out on a walk with a dog are probably not maybe what the normal person could do without that much background. Again, with the same background, I'm not special in terms of intelligence at all. Seriously, I'm just a normal dude. The only thing that makes me different is I just have an unwavering amount of perseverance. I don't stop. I become obsessed. This is the thing that makes me different, is most people are not wired this way. And the truth is, like, I can tell when other people that I meet are wired this way. This is why I have so much respect for Linus Torvalds, is I know that Linus is wired the same way that I am. And that's how he was able to build Linux and Git, is because Linus and I are cut from the same cloth. Linus could build whatever the F he wants to build. But if Linus isn't at the helm to figure out how to build Linux and Git, those things don't exist. Because in order to build that, you have to have someone that has not just intelligence, you need to have someone that has unwavering staying power, that they are unrelenting in their pursuit of a singular vision. And very few people have that. Like, truthfully, very few people have that in the sense that they will not be thwarted from a path. They're very special people if you find them.